From its published date of January 1st, 1818, Frankenstein by Mary Shelley has been considered a must-read novel and a classic. Unfortunately, there are several misconceptions regarding the novel. This is understandable because many people claim they've read it when they've really only watched the knockoff films that warp the storyline into something slightly less dark and a little more entertaining. Before I hop right into the myths surrounding the novel, I'll do a quick, and I mean super quick, recap of the entire work. Victor Frankenstein is taking a joyride on a dog sled in the North Pole and comes across Captain Robert Walton, who helps Victor regain strength. Walton asks Victor why the hell he's out in the North Pole alone, and since there's lots of free time there, Victor tells Walton his whole life story. More or less, the story goes like this. Victor goes to college to study natural philosophy and chemistry and searches for the meaning of life, whatever that means. Just like any normal college student does on a Friday night, Victor begins to collect dead body parts from the local cemetery and morgue, putting them together to create a body. One night, he brings this body to life and shockingly is horrified that the monster is hideous. Continuing his brilliant path of logic, Victor runs out of his apartment and comes back later to find the creature gone. After being ill for quite a time, he decides to head back to Geneva after receiving a letter from his dad that his younger brother has been murdered. When checking out the crime scene, Victor sees the monster and realizes, oh shoot, you did this. But he then allows for his little brother's nanny to be blamed and executed for the murder. Quality guy here. The only logical thing for Victor to do is to go take a vacation in the mountains. But sadly for him, the creature crashes the party. The creature explains how confused and lonely he was after Victor made him and describes how he learned how to speak, write, care for himself, and think. The creature knows he can't be a member of society, so he begs, more like demands, Victor to make him a lady friend. Victor says, I hate you, but sure, and then later backs out because he doesn't know the consequences of creating this creature. Sounds like something he should have thought about before he started all of this. The creature angrily vows revenge on Victor, and shortly after Victor is charged with murdering his bestie, Henry, who is found strangled to death. Victor gets ill again because he's super sad about this, must be a thing with Victor, and then goes home to marry his adopted sister, Elizabeth. To each their own. On their wedding night, the creature kills Elizabeth, and Victor then vows to get revenge on the creature because he's pretty much killed everyone Victor loves. That's how Victor ends up in the North Pole with Walton. In the end, Victor dies of illness, and the creature responds by ending his own misery too. The end. Wow. Okay, so now for the common misconceptions of this novel. One of the biggest myths about the novel is that Frankenstein is the name of the creature. Wrong. Frankenstein is just Victor's last name. You'd think this was pretty obvious, but then the internet happens. I started by giving it a goog and simply typed Frankenstein in the search bar of Google Images. Not to my surprise, this came up. And this, and this, and this, and this. Pop culture has warped the image of Frankenstein so much that even Google is fooled. I went to Yahoo Answers because obviously it's the most reliable source on the internet. Why doesn't Frankenstein monster have a name? What a relevant question. Let's see the scholarly answer. I thought it was Adam or Victor. I'm sorry, what? One of the most notable controversial aspects of the novel is that the creature does not have a name. Having a name or being called by something is a basic human characteristic and a way of identification that the creature is robbed of from the beginning of the novel. Having no name or being called a creature, monster, demoned by one's maker is not only degrading, but it's detached and dehumanizing. This is one way Victor distances himself from the creature. All hope was not lost. Friends over at Reddit said it best. People who know of the story think Frankenstein was the monster. People who have read the story know Frankenstein built the monster. People who understand the story know that Frankenstein was the monster. Damn. Mic drop. This is not Frankenstein. This is the creature, but still kinda not really. Let me explain. The next common misconception of Frankenstein is that the creature is a large green zombie-like monster. Wrong again. This is another one of those pop culture traits that have been embedded in the minds of people who haven't actually read the novel. Before reading Frankenstein for the first time, I thought to myself, what the heck, where's the green monster? After reading Victor's description of the creature. Victor describes the creature like this. His limbs were in proportion, and I had selected his features as beautiful. Beautiful, great God! His yellow skin scarcely covered the work of muscles and arteries beneath. His hair was of a lustrous black and flowing, his teeth of a pearly whiteness, but these luxuriances only formed a more horrid contrast with his watery eyes, that seemed almost of the same color as the dun white sockets in which they were set, his shriveled complexion, and straight black lips. What a lovely way to compliment and welcome your newborn! Well, the internet asks, why is Frankenstein green? Hmm, I don't know. Maybe he ate some bad sushi while he was studying, or maybe he is just cursed for being a piece of crap dad. I'm sure the comments will be helpful again. Moldy. Thanks, Dave. That was super insightful. On Halloween, you always see those people walking around painted green with bolts sticking out of their heads, with that friend following behind them saying,
"It's alive! Oh, it's alive! It's alive! It's alive! It's alive!"
claiming that they're Frankenstein. I logged on to Amazon and searched for Frankenstein costume. Surely Amazon couldn't be misleading people. This is what I found. No, I'm just kidding. This is actually what I found. I didn't know Frankenstein's creature was a green baby or a pug. Another myth about Frankenstein is that Percy Shelley, Mary Shelley's husband, co-wrote the novel or wrote the novel himself, because he was a famous poet, and how could a woman ever write a novel so poetic and dark? There's even a book called The Man Who Wrote Frankenstein. Now, there's no proof that this didn't happen, but underestimating the power of a woman is an underlying theme in the novel Frankenstein that critics should pay close attention to. Many people say that Victor tries to play God by creating a life, but he's also playing woman, because carrying a child and forming a life is something that females are physiologically made to do. Victor underestimated that power and unnaturally created life and immediately regretted it. I find it especially interesting that at the time, Victorian society encouraged motherly instincts, because if this had been a mother who abandoned her child in Frankenstein, she would be an outcast or shamed. So, just to set the record straight, this is Frankenstein, this is the creature created by Frankenstein, and this is Mary Shelley, the writer of Frankenstein.